Hey there, everybody. So, I was informed that Brooks is now discussing his use of AI in game development, and considering that we're both game developers, but I'm an amateur game developer who worked largely in Java maintenance while I was working in my career, um, versus somebody who has some very impressive professional connections. So I would like to just discuss this from a programming point of view as opposed to like my more standard philosophical content, right? So Brooks is talking about his views on AI, and I think it was like Crazy Taxi or something. The remake of Crazy Taxi is using AI for some reason. I genuinely don't understand what the benefit of that would provide, like outside of just cheapening, cutting for like assets maybe, but like we'll get into it, right? We're not really talking about Crazy Taxi here. It's just what brought up the conversation. So Brooks starts with saying, if it's fun, I'm not sure why anyone cares. Well, Brooks, there's a lot of reasons why people care because of the economic impact, the ecological impact, the social impact that AI has, both on local communities and just the entire industry in general. I am actually pretty strongly anti-AI because I have reason to believe that the real purpose of the AI industry is to accumulate resources to go around and essentially transcend the government, right? It makes a lot more sense what Donald Trump is doing when you understand that it's essentially economic manipulation to try to funnel as many resources as possible into the most into a system that it basically tries to guarantee itself integrated into every part of the economy. This is, by the way, why you assholes who are investing in these companies are seeing very large, returns on your investments. It's because everybody's trying to get a piece of this pie because they know that if AI were to be successful and integrated into everything, then you would have part of the power of the world. That's literally what's going on right now, and that's why people are opposed to AI. Now, personally, I don't think it's AI's fault. I think it's the AI company's fault, but for all intents and purposes, these are the same things. You're not talking about, small open source models that were developed by some sort of like indie guy who's trying to do X, Y, or Z. You're talking about a corporate product that is part of this ecosystem that is trying to funnel capital resources towards itself. So it's a little concerning that you just start off by saying that you don't understand why anyone cares. The reason why people care is because people care more about things than video games or what kind of fun they have in video games. They're much more concerned nowadays about how their video games are produced. Like, it's so funny. I literally the first sentence I'm already saying a ton of shit. Think about how people have gotten really concerned about the labor rights that surround the gaming industry and talking about how, the gaming industry is so cooked in its abuse that people are committing suicide, and it's one of the first tech supposedly white collar positions to have industry-wide threats of unionization, or unionization is successful. Like, that's a sign that people care about more than just if the game is fun. People should look more into whether or not something is fun. That's a very consumerist and capitalistic point of view. So let's keep going. AI doesn't have the ability to be a creative force. It can do simpler tasks, but can't make a game because of a ton of reasons. Yeah, that's true. In my opinion, if they use 3D Gen to Graybox, that's a great usage of it. If they use it for figuring out why the timer always got stuck on 23 seconds, that's a great use for it. I actually disagree, right? The main reason why I disagree with using AI for prototyping is because the model doesn't actually give you much creative control and understanding like what you necessarily want to do with something, right? So I feel like even if it has like a lot of technical stuff, it should still be like done by a human. Like, I don't think that it's appropriate to just do the whole gray boxing process through an AI. I think that it could be potentially, directed by an AI or something, but like not done entirely. I think that, you're losing like part of the reason why people don't like the use of generative AI isn't because it can't do it well. It's because there's value with having a human involved that goes beyond just the fact that, some sort of, humanist pretension. Humans are machines, just like the machines that we're running this AI on. Humans have many skills and adaptations that are valuable. Part of the reason why AI sucks at putting things together is because it is a completely different kind of machine that is not adapted to our world. It has to invest in an insane amount of resources just to try to pretend to emulate to be a human, right? So there's value in humans doing things, and part of that value is just that, it maintains direction, all right? So here's another one. If they used it for figuring out why the timer always gets stuck on 23 seconds, all right? So I'm somebody who considers themselves mostly in a maintenance role in the professional industry. That means that I'm doing less creating and more fixing other people's bullshit. So this is my bread and butter, right? And I'm going to just say right now, I don't think an AI would be very helpful for me trying to figure out a bug unless it provided actual, profiling tools, right? I think an AI could be useful if it was able to profile a game while it was running and predict a bunch of scenarios. That would be incredibly useful. If it could predict, multiple scenarios at once and say, hey, this is this possibility, this is this possibility, highlight use cases that might be edge cases that I could identify and fix, that would be incredibly valuable. But I don't think that that's actually what's being put to market. What seems to be being put to market is more so, one, writing code, which, no, I don't think that's really a good use case. That's a good use case if you want to have bugs down the line and security flaws, which, whoa, what do you know? AI industry is full of both of them, right? And then two, it's basically used as a linguistic analysis of code. And, it's kind of surprising that somebody who considers themselves a Deleuze-Guattarian, who goes around and says that I'm going to go and translate Anti-Oedipus, insists on a model that basically is very Lacanian in structure in terms of what value it actually provides to the user. You're basically taking something that is purely linguistic, right? You're taking something that's literally just a language analysis, right? A profiler is not a language analysis. A profiler is a machine. It is a non-linguistic machine that just gives you outputs about what the game is doing, right? An AI could be valuable there, but that's not probably what he's talking about, and that's kind of the problem. But yeah, if they made a fun Crazy Taxi game, which has been a few decades since that occurred, Gen AI wasn't central. Yeah, the structure of the game is what makes it fun, right? And again, that's kind of part of the reason why AI really sucks at designing games, because AI has no means to even conceive of fun outside of a reflection from its training data. I know fun is one of the most obscure, abstract fucking concepts in game design that is just impossible to pin down, and it's just something that gamers throw around everywhere, which is why it's kind of stupid that he's using this as a measurement of value. But, basically the fun of a game comes from kind of the same thing that produces the enjoyment that one has when reading a good book, right? So let's continue. Think of it like this. Portal is a masterpiece. Yes, an LLM was fed its code, but not all of it all at once. Only 4 sentences worth at a time. This is because the cost to do the entire game's code at once would be tens of millions of dollars. So, to make a game like Portal, functionally impossible for AI to do this now, and I would argue ever. It would require more RAM than exists. And that's the thing. What makes Portal great isn't any line of code. What makes Proust great isn't any sentence or two. It's the whole work. And the whole is impossible for LLMs to grasp in any place in any good way. But the way you're putting it makes it sound like it's a limitation of RAM. I think it's a fundamental limitation of the machine, and I think it's because the machine does not interface with a human society in the same way that people do. I don't even think if you made a machine, a body, and had the AI piloting it, that even looked human, people would still be trying to find ways to treat it differently. All right, so it's definitely not that creates the value. I think it's more so to do with the actual physical machine producing itself. I mean, we relate to what is produced by humans because we're humans, right? We don't relate to what's produced by an AI because an AI is not a human. It doesn't experience things like we do, right? And I know some people would be quick to say, oh, well, we can use this to justify racism, blah, 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 blah. But, I think it's fair to say that a machine that processes things in a completely different manner that's basically simulated based off of a bunch of computer science, very important to understand, not actual intelligence research or psychology research or anything. These people do not reference other fields. They hate interdisciplinary work. Basically, the real value of it being produced by a human is the human social relation. It's not really whether or not it can produce something similar, because it's always going to be just a mock imitation, even if it does, look good. I think a good example of this is that I saw an ad from Gillette the other day that was AI generated, and I genuinely wasn't paying attention. And I noticed that these ads get people, or these images pretty much only get people regularly if they're not paying attention. Even very sophisticated image models that are out now still produce reliable signatures that could pretty much give them away if you are paying attention. It's just that you have to pay a lot more attention than you had to pay 2 years ago, and that's the reason why people are getting tricked a lot more, because we're in a social environment where we're constantly scrolling past stuff really fast. So is it really any surprise that we don't have the time to actually check whether or not the focus looks right on that photograph? No, that's why AI fools us, right? But the moment that you recognize something as AI, for example, if there's a disclaimer or if there's some other sign, such as the content from the channel is all AI and stuff like that, people stop looking at it like humans. People start looking at it how do I tell that this is AI? Because this is not me. This is not like me. This is not something I can relate to. Fuck you. Get it out of my face, right? And I can understand completely in a world that's full of alienated people caused by the impact of late-stage capitalism, why they would much rather try to communicate with something made from a human than a machine. Because the last thing they want to be is more alienated. Come on, bro. It's like you don't know how people work. And you're just some programmer who picked up a book one day and thought he was the king of the world because he had the support from one of the most stupid, embarrassing industries in tech. Alright, I'm done with that. A friend made a prototype with AI I played a bit ago. It was fun and looked good. After talking to him, it turns out that it was less AI than I thought. Well, yeah, I'd be really surprised if it had much AI at all. The pixel art was AI, but it came out wrong, so he took a program to fix the arms and make the color match better. He edited the shit out of it. The base was vibe coded, but then he had to go and edit the code himself to make it work and enjoyable. So, as somebody who's both an artist and a software developer, I just cannot imagine being in this mindset. I can understand AI generation for something like 3D textures, right? Because 3D textures can be really annoying to source, and you gotta deal with copyright stuff and all this crap, but, pixel art, you could just make programmer art. You don't have to get a crazy pixel art artist, right? You could just work within your means, how game developers used to do it before they had way too many fucking resources to spam all their shitty shader slop in my fucking face. I fucking hate that shit. I hate shader slop. It's half the reason why I can't even play half of these fucking games. But yeah, to me, you should really be trying to work within your limitations. Yes, you could use AI to create the pixel art and edit it, and, I've noticed that people who do this focus a lot more on defending the use of AI than any of the artistic decisions that they made, afterward, and it really makes me question, was it really an artistic choice, or are you just fixing it? Right? Because, when I do my art, I am very intentional. I'm a painter, okay? I paint, actual, traditional art, right? And when you paint, you have to be very intentional with what you're doing. You have to understand exactly how the medium folds and all of this crap. And so that gets integrated into the way that I paint. And that's why I have a distinct style. That's why any painter has a distinct style, because we all learn it slightly differently, right? That's what makes it art, right? What you're seeing is that you made a bunch of resources to be able to do something that you didn't have access to. But it really makes me question, the artistic integrity of that choice, right? Is that really a direction that we should be encouraging? Should we be encouraging people to just automate every part of the production process, right? In my opinion, the answer is no. Instead, we should be operating within our limitations. Maybe this guy can't make any art, so he should just make squares. But think about how interesting it could be to make a video game based around squares as a sort of abstract medium. There are so many games that actually work on this. Think of what's that game called? The one with all the 8-bit music from all the cool tracker artists. Just Beats and something. I can't remember what it's called. You know what I'm talking about. It's a really hard game, and people really like that game, even though the main character's only a fucking square, right? And that game does have a lot of fancy visual effects, right? But you don't even need that. You can have just a plain ass fucking game. Undertale doesn't have a ton of crazy effects. It does have a couple shaders, but it's mostly pretty simple stuff. You could make an Undertale with squares. That'd actually be kind of a cool concept. I'd be down with it. I'd love to see it. So why are we encouraging Gen AI just because it looks cooler and looks more sophisticated? That's not what art is. Art isn't about how much fucking shit you can shove per pixel. It's not about how realistic you can make something or how good you can make it, right? And I would just encourage this person to be like, hey, maybe the problem is that people are, bullying your game demo that you're clearly not going to release commercially because it looks a certain way. Maybe that's the problem. Gamers have serious cultural problems. And, so... Oh my god, I can't believe I have this much to say already. Now, the code is another problem entirely. Now, some people might be able to still justify using AI art assets, and I think there is a limit to where I can take that argument, but I think that AI-generated code is a much hairier situation, because now you're asking for something that has a serious function, right? We're talking about a function within, an operation, right? And the problem with AI-generated code is this, right? So I thought about this a lot, because I hung out with some people who use AI-generated code, right, on a regular basis. Now, first off, I do not envy these people. I'm just gonna be blunt. I would not want to fucking argue with Claude all day, for days, just to get something fucking working. It's actually embarrassing. It's literally are you okay? You sure referencing the docs isn't okay? Alright, if it says. It's embarrassing to watch, and people are paying money for this. I think we have to remember that people pay money for this AI stuff. I don't pay money when I write code. I can't even afford to. I'm fucking broke. But, I write the code just out of my own head. I don't have to pay anyone for it. I really once I get money for my game and, try to get some funding for that, the money is largely going to go to asset creation, because that's what I'm actually not good at, right? Because I actually care about the artistic integrity of my game, and I can talk to a human and help direct them the way that they need to see it, and they see things in a human way that I can understand and I can interpret with my artistic vision. There's a lot of things that are missing with an AI in that, right? But with the code, it's like you're potentially introducing vulnerabilities, you're potentially introducing bugs, you don't know how your shit works. I know there's this whole attitude oh, well, we go in and we fix it later. Hey, honey, do you know something about code, right? Okay, so when I download code online, right, I don't understand that code as well as if I wrote that code myself, because when I wrote that code myself, I understand all the design decisions I made, I understand, this or that, the other, and yes, I do forget those things over time, which is why you document your code and you design code that is well-designed and usable in the future. Stop designing code like indie game developers, holy shit! I'm serious about that. But, yeah, it's just I think the reason why people think it's acceptable is because they're already shit developers, quite frankly. They don't understand the value of understanding something. They're the kind of person who just downloads a bunch of dependencies and then wonders why, after they manage to create a diamond dependency situation, why everything starts breaking. That's why. You don't understand what is actually going on. There's real value in writing the code yourself. And even if you write code in such a way where you design the entire abstract of the code and only use AI in the most specific sections, you're still putting yourself at a lot of risk for a lot of edge case scenarios that just simply wouldn't happen if you had a salient understanding of what your code does. And you don't need to understand what it's all doing at once. You need to have a way to navigate it in a way that makes sense. So let's continue. This is where my question has been lately. When something is made AI or not, everyone I know who is not a shithead doesn't claim AI stuff for themselves at all. The song I use at the end of my videos is AI stems and loops, but that's not all of it. It's placement and sampling other shit and writing the lyrics and then wait, did AI make the song? Did I? It's kind of interesting because I feel like this scenario is almost an exception, because I want to give Brooks the benefit of the doubt that the AI-generated segments of his song are intended as a form of commentary, considering the nature of his channel. He does a lot of media analysis and stuff. So, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that, in this particular scenario, AI generation could be a very valid artistic choice. But I don't think that's true for most AI-generated stuff. Your friend making the game wasn't making that because he was making a meta-commentary on media. He was doing that because he was a lazy shithead, and he didn't want to just try to figure out something that worked within, the scope of his limitations, right? He didn't want to be an artist. He wanted to be a consumer. He wanted to be a product, okay? It's the same process as if I bought loops and stem or stole them off of a website, but that stuff I have no issue in saying I made it. Here I hesitate. Okay, well, the difference is that those people usually have things like licensing rights and stuff, so they have made a choice on how they are credited or receive income or royalties from that. That's not true with AI, and there's also, with this particular scenario, there's all the ambiguous copyright shit, which, again, I hate copyright personally. I think copyright is a scourge. But we have to ask ourselves also, what does this actually mean for, what value our products have and stuff, right? Basically, the reason why copyright was a concern in the first place was because people wanted to keep the value of art and other kind of image stuff without having all the value sucked away from its replicability, right? You can replicate an image easier and easier moving forward in time with modern technologies. So it became a concern who owns what, as well as who is copying what, right? A singer can copy another song, whatever, right? The issue is that, of course, this concern is, of course, encodified within all this capitalist logic and stuff, but I think that the concern that who owns what, who's attributed to what, is a valid concern that I think deserves a little bit more analysis. I feel like my analysis is actually not very good on this right now, and I'm just saying that, I'm just kind of this is just an impromptu video, but I feel like this is something I could probably take more time to analyze myself. It's just, the QC operating system. It's def vibe coded, but the interesting things are me. Well, why not just make all of it you? Why not just get better at a developer? I mean, I can understand if this was somebody who was a new preppy little kid, but you're in your 40s and you've been in the industry since the 2000s. This really says more about your skill as a developer than anything. You don't want to learn the technicals of that. You want to have the computer do it for you. I don't know. I don't understand the appeal. I kind of like the raw, wrestling, the dirty wrestling of debugging. It's kind of fun to me. It's exhilarating. I like to learn along the way why my mistakes didn't work. And yes, it takes more time, but then that way the whole thing is me. Then the whole thing is cool, and instead of having parts that aren't cool, you know what I mean? But here I grabbed a GitHub repo. Wait. So I skipped a line. If I grabbed a GitHub repo and I used that to build, did I make it? I would say yes, with credit to the repo in the repo that I made. But here I grabbed a GitHub repo, some CS code I liked, 3 other repos I had, AI put it together, and then go through and fix. So wait a second, you got the AI to assemble it for you? That's actually incredibly lame, Brooks. You have way too much experience to be that lazy. Come on. Like, if it was just the AI was writing certain parts of the source code, I guess I could get it. But you're literally getting the AI to assemble it for you? That's incredibly lame. That's so lame. What the fuck, dude? So lame. Anyways, and I say it's just all vibe coded, which is not giving myself credit for things. Well, it is vibe coded. Like, you literally, I think I have more of an offense from this than actual vibe coding. Like, I think this is way worse than vibe coding because you're not even doing the parts that the human are supposed to do. You're getting a computer to do. Oh my god, come on, dude. And like, yes, I understand that you can push out more garbage faster. Wow. But you know what? You don't actually understand how that code works as well as if you just built it yourself. And even if you do write all these changes and blah, 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 you know damn well that when you download a GitHub repo and you edit that code, you still don't understand it as well as your own shit. So, yeah. And now that you've had the AI to fucking put all this shit together, you don't even understand really why it's put together that way. You're just really lazy. Like, you're really lazy. Like, come on, dude, you can't spend the hour to figure this shit out. You're trying to make an OS and look like a cool tech daddy to your audience. You may as well actually do it. So, anyways, it's all vibe coded, which is not just giving myself credit for things. Last night, I added a feature where I can take chat messages as events and pin them to my whiteboard of notes. The whiteboard of notes was vibe coded, but is at that knowing that is also not totally true? Okay, so he's basically, that's very confusing, but he's basically saying he used vibe code to help put together a notes app, right? Which, okay, alright, but I think the thing with that is just that there's so much material online that it could have been trained on. I know you said, oh, it's only training on 4 lines of code at a time. Yeah, but it's still very, very heavily, aggressively trained in this conception of very specific differences. So it's able to still reproduce a lot of that code, and in fact, AI has consistently been demonstrated to be a plagiarism machine over and over and over again. So, yeah, I think, like, you would just do better by just downloading something that already exists, because then that way, one, you know it works, it's been vetted by other people, and not just the developer, but oftentimes other people who utilize the tool and all sorts of things. Like, come on, dude. But I did the chat thing myself, but it didn't work, and Claude figured it out because I misshaped my code. Honey, why don't you just pay me? I actually probably will charge less than Claude. I need a job. I could fix this shit for you. It'd be so funny. He won't do it because that would just be admitting defeat, but god damn it, dude. Like, you're just telling on yourself that you suck at code and you don't know how to deal with it without a fucking internet connection. This is so lame. Okay, so I'm not reading the comment on the bottom because that's not Brooks, but you can read it, pause it if you really want to, but it says, in GameMaker, I was making a prototype for a game and got stuck. I took screenshots and had Claude teach me how to use a feature I've never seen. Sent a screenshot, asked for step-by-step instructions. Do it myself by hand. Is that using AI immorally? Why are you so concerned about the morals of AI? Aren't you a fucking Delisquatarian? Don't you understand that sin is something created by Christians to make us feel bad, to control our behavior? Come on. No, like, that's not really the problem. It's not okay. The immoral part comes from the fact that you're using something that is damaging the fuck out of, communities across the world, that is literally reshaping our world to be centered around itself, like as if it's a god. That's you're funneling into that. That's the problem. That's what really makes it immoral, right? But to understand like our relationship with the code and stuff, right? So first off, I'm just gonna say, GameMaker is like kind of a shit language, so I'm not surprised that you're finding issues with it. I will just say from personal experience, GameMaker is really hard to work with. A lot of the assets are not well programmed. I've even pointed out how, like, Heartbound, for example, the lag that the text boxes causes is not even his own fault. It's caused by a shitty asset that he downloaded online. Now, he shouldn't use that asset, but the problem still persists. Like, this asset is shared around. So like GameMaker is just not a very good library to work with. I would suggest, like, I understand some of the appeal with GameMaker. There's some like interesting quirks with it. Also, it compiles like shit. I hope you know that. Like, it's just a garbage program. You should really move to something else. But that's kind of aside the point. The thing is that in my experience, right? Yes, sometimes the AI provides a useful lead, and I think that's probably its most adequate use case. I think that it can provide good leads. However, it also hallucinates like shit, right? Like, when I was working with trying to solve something with Godot, right? I didn't deliberately use the AI, but you know how the AI appears on the bottom, right? And it suggested something that was kind of interesting, but it kind of didn't seem right, because I felt like I had seen in previous, me going through the code, it didn't seem like that was the way that Godot structured this particular problem, right? So I started to do research, and what do you know? It literally hallucinated it. Because the thing is, Godot has kind of some weird design choices that are not, like, typical from what you might expect, right? Because it's a little bit of open source weirdness caused by mismanagement and stuff. And as a result of that, you're going to get some weird stuff. And the AI is not going to properly predict that, because it's going to assume something that's, designed in a different kind of convention, right? And so you have to be really careful with this, because it does actually waste time. I think part of the issue really is that, like, which Brooks doesn't bring up at all, is just the fact that we live in a society where, like, if we try to ask help for programming, everyone's a fucking dick about it. Like, hey, maybe stop encouraging your fucking streamer culture where everyone's a dick, and then maybe we won't have to feel insecure about asking anything that's a human about these problems. Anyways, let's keep going. Well, that's the thing. They're not fed the images from DeviantArt. Not really. The first thing is the image and its metadata are looked at to determine fit. This is statistical outright. If the metadata doesn't seem to fit, it's tossed. Well, that's a little concerning. That means that, it's really biased. But let's continue. He's talking about how the diffusion models work. One image from DeviantArt never really makes it as an image, not even a full one. JPEGs don't carry the image, they carry a decoded set of pixel data. But this is also not trained because, like the code from Portal, it would be catastrophically massive. It first gets downsampled like 8 to 16 times, which is massive. So no image is really trained. This is bullshit. It's still trained, Brooks. Like, just because I made it 300 to 250 pixels doesn't mean it's not the same image. That's why it's able to plagiarize images so readily. Like, you grew up in the 90s on the internet. You were fucking downloading Doom shit. You should know that those tiny little pictures still depict the things very clearly that they're depicting. Those photographs that are like 400 pixels wide, you can still tell what they are. You just can't see as many of the details, right? And if you have millions of things trained on those potential details, you could just have it filled out in a diffusion model. Like, come on, dude. It's still the fucking image. I really don't understand this argument. He goes on about this, and I have a lot of issues with this, but it's just like, he's basically insisting that it's not the same thing, and it's like, no, it's the same thing, Brooks. It's just jumbled up and rearranged. Like, it's like, I guess, like, you could say that it's, I think, like, the proper word would be deterritorialized. Like, just because we've deterritorialized God doesn't mean that, the way that we run our society and use, like, all these, like, bullshit, moral panics and stuff to direct our behavior doesn't mean that those aren't also descended or related or... I have to be careful to use the word descended, because that's not really how it works in Deleuze and Guattari. But, like, it's like, dude... It came from the thing, okay? I know you're trying to be a philosopher and all, but no, like, the image, a scaled down image is still the same image. Like, that's not gonna hold up anywhere. Not in copyright court, not in, like, some average person's whatever. Like, it's only a different image in the data itself, because the data isn't what produces the actual image. It's the whole interface of you interacting with it, the light that's shining off of the thing, whatever. There's a lot of parts of it that are not binary. So no image is really trained. It's a condensed version that is made statistically relevant and put into a space where image is irrelevant. No LLM ever sees anything. The output is weights, okay? But that doesn't mean it's not still encoding those images. Like it's not like it's turned into magic pasta. It's essentially an impression onto the model. Like I think a good way to think of it is that our memories are created from trauma. Like we remember things because they impress upon us in our mind and they leave an impression. That doesn't mean the thing is actually still there, but what it means is that we know what that thing is because the thing locks into that impression and it reinforces that structure, right? That's essentially what's happening when we see images. We see it's those weights are made by taking the abstracted image, think thumbnail version of the image, and adding noise until it's very different. Okay, so basically how a diffusion model works is it tries to introduce random noise and instructs the training model how to determine how it's different, right? So that's all he's describing. Each time it completes the caption or alt text for the image and layers, all it stores are weights and numerical values of the caption. No image ever makes it in. Like, dude, you already recognize that JPEGs are fucking streams of data. Like, how do you not realize that this is related? Like, it is storing the images. It's literally storing the impression of the images through the diffusion model. What are you talking about? It's just not, like, literally a picture inside of the computer. Like, yeah, but, like, come on. And the image that was trained is blurry to you and me anyway. Attached is a good example. Actually putting in the full image... Yeah, like, okay, I know how resolution works. So no image of any size are trained. It is an abstracted data bit. It's why AI sucks at details in art that makes it feel off. Because the whole thing can't be done. Well, no, actually the reason why it sucks is because we don't actually produce art through diffusion. We produce art through intentional design choices. We produce intensities that we want to direct the viewer towards. It's not a matter of, I'm not saying that diffusion can't produce a result that is similar, but it's just not like an artist produces things in a very intentional manner. It's much more like a program or a machine than diffusion and just difference, right? There's structure to it. And honestly, I think that's like the biggest thing. Like there's structures within the weights that are like kind of generating these patterns, right? That we can't see, but those structures function completely differently in ways that we cannot imagine that are relevant to humans. And remember what I said about how art is really a form of human communication? It's about communicating with other people. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. So for me, AI isn't really a change. It's a matter of use. You and I both can say, oh, those AI slop games that are just like shit on Roblox Ad Museum, but that shit was on Roblox before. They trained that that shit has been around since the first games. Yeah, he's right about that. And I do think that that's something that like reactionary anti-AI people need to like actually like address. Like, slop has been around for a while. The problem is capitalism. It's not AI in that circumstance. That's because those games were made with the same process. Hey, just have the parts do those things. That's all it is. And it's not, because art requires the whole, and AI, as well as being outsourced cheap labor, can't do it. Hasn't yet. I don't see that changing. I disagree that art actually requires the whole. Like, there's a lot of art that like we only have parts of, like because of lost media and stuff. Is it just not art anymore because we don't have the whole? No, what really makes art is that art is that it's a human communication that was intentionally designed. It's a kind of machine, right? And for me, I'm waiting for somebody to make a great game with AI as a big part, because if I enjoy it and it's made by AI even slightly, we have hit something new. I disagree. I think that AI Gen doesn't prove anything outside of just accelerating production processes. And I also think that, like, all you're doing here, Brooks, is introducing a faciality machine and saying, well, if it passes my faciality machine, then it must be good. I made a whole video about why that's stupid. Watch it. It's 2 hours. You'll learn. Thank you. And maybe you'll learn about something besides Anti-Oedipus. Wow, you could read the other books they wrote. Oh my god. I'll assume I'll be waiting for a while. I have a feeling that Brooks will be pretty easily tricked, honestly, considering how much of a break he was giving the fucking crazy taxi drivers at the beginning. Like, come on, dude. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't think that AI can't be used in games, but I think that the using it for Gen AI is just wrong. I think like what would actually be a really cool use of AI is if there was a balance that was met on a local model where like yeah, you didn't need super accurate results, but you want something that kind of sounds like a person, right? And you can use, a game that has various it has various variables that it can use to weight responses, and you can use an LLM to produce text in real time. I think that would be really interesting in like a game based around therapy. These things already hallucinate all the time. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to like write a game where you're directing these AI psychotic patients to be a bit more stable or something, or achieve some kind of stability? I think that would be a really solid game concept. I know some people might be offended by the idea, but as speaking as somebody who's psychotic, I actually think that AI does a pretty good job at emulating some aspects of psychosis because of the fact that it is a breakdown of a lot of things that we take for granted as humans, and it does convert us into a kind of machine. And I don't think that psychotic people necessarily experience the world in a way based on diffusion necessarily, but I think that diffusion offers a really interesting way to portray it that actually kind of feels like that. And we saw this a lot in like the very early end of this, like the 2022, and it wasn't from people prompting, "What does it look like to be psychotic?" No, they were prompting like very like specific things and using like each frame as like a part of the animation. So they were basically generating each image separately, not as part of a video, and creating something from that. And I think that's art, right? And I think that AI can be used as art. I even think that the use of AI-generated audio in Brooks's like music or whatever, has a potential for serious meta commentary. But I think his argument for it is completely wrong, and it reveals that it's not really meta commentary. It's just him being lazy and, dude has a steady job and, all this crap. I'm sure he can afford to get a sample library instead of being an annoying prick, but whatever. Anyways, that's my thoughts on this. I thought it'd be interesting just because, I'm a programmer, and I thought, he would benefit from having, another programmer, talk to him about this kind of stuff. So